Man, this is one of those, we know it, but we don't do it. We don't often ask for it, but if we did, man, you get to where you want to go so much faster, and that's all we want. That's all we want, especially if you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or high-level person. Money is something you know how to make, and so it's easier to spend because you know it's going to have a return. So if that being true, knowing that if you have a way to get there faster, and that's what you want is to be there faster, well, then it's not about money, it's about time. And to condense that, what's one of the surefire ways to do that is guidance. And man, there's all different levels of guidance. You can read a book, you can go to a video on YouTube, you can hire a coach, you can have a mentor. Life experience is a guidance, failure is a guidance. But it is the thing that we should seek out, because what is behind the guidance? It's the information that we want. It's the catalyst that will get us to where we want to go. And we're going to be talking all things guidance today, and just the importance of it, and why, I think most importantly, why we resist it. I don't know if it's a self-sabotage thing. Is it a I know better? Is it ego? We just talked about that too. We all have ego. I have it. Sean has it. You have it. And ego is the enemy. And, we've taught you got to have all the answers. You need to know yourself. If you don't know, you're an idiot. You're a dummy. That's what we learn at school. And you're embarrassed if you get it wrong. So we're taught, do it yourself. But in the real world, in the world of success, asking people, getting there faster, momentum, that's the key to winning. And you don't get A's, B's, or C's in that realm. You get whatever it is that you want. Is it money? Is it wealth, peace, success, all the things. So today we're talking about guidance and the importance of it, and how you could remove yourself from stopping yourself from getting it. So, Sean, you remember a time where you wouldn't take any guidance?
Oh man, my entire life, life story, guidance. I don't need guidance from you. Okay, cool, bro. And we know mentors and coaches and the people around you, if you're a mentor or coach, and you know that, like, you're not going to give a timer, you're not going to give a second to somebody that cannot swallow their pride or ego. At least I wouldn't. I wouldn't give a time or day to somebody that's not going to swallow their pride or ego. And as far as guidance goes, one of the things that it's been a big pill for me to swallow, and it's been a big learning curve for me. And I still, to this day, I've gotten better about it on getting guidance in these different areas of life, whether that's from in therapy, as far as marriage counseling, or for business coaching. And I leverage these different resources and tools to a certain degree: podcasts, YouTube, online PDFs, online courses over the years. And so all these tools and resources have guided me to where I am today. One of the biggest differences that I've noticed when getting a mentor or coach is you can guide somebody all day long on this podcast, on online courses, and going to church, right? The pastor can guide you, with scripture and proverb and all these different things in church. But once you leave, it's on you, right? You're back to your pride, your ego, trying to figure it out on your own. And so the biggest lesson I've learned with guidance is implementation. When you're getting guidance from somebody, a mentor, a coach, you're getting that implementation. That's what the sell is this is how you implement it. This is the support. This is the guidance. This is the accountability through this process on the experience that we're about to take you through in building a business, in hiring employees and firing employees, in losing weight and not losing weight. Here recently, when I first started, when I got fired from Enterprise Rent a Car, when I got fired, and then I got hired to State Farm, which is my first job, W-2 out of Enterprise after 6 months of being on the couch and being, frustrated, depressed. What did I do wrong? I got hired, got an opportunity, went in. I didn't have a clue. I went in, I was just like, hey, I'm just going to show up. I'm a human being. I'm bouncing off of walls here. Thanks for the opportunity for the job, and teach me. This guy, this agent at the time, which is the agency owner back in 2012, said, hey, I'm going to come in. I'm going to invest in you, teach you everything you need to know. And then in 2 years, you're going to open up your own agency. Cool. Immediately, he became a mentor, right?
Mm-hmm.
He became a mentor, he became a coach, and he became a guide to me. Now, I think I've said this on other podcasts, and I say this to this day. Without his investment in me, without his guidance in me, I don't think I'm where I'm at today. I'm not on this podcast. I contribute his guidance, his mentorship by taking me underneath his wing to help avoid his failures, his mistakes in the 10 years that he had been doing it, to help me shorten that lifespan, to help me speed up the process. He guided me in the implementation. He didn't give me a booklet, Ewan. He didn't give me a podcast. He didn't give me a YouTube video. He didn't say, hey, go study this course. All that was micro. All that was minutia. All that was just information overload, which leads to paralyzed. You get it paralyzed in any area of life. He guided me. He held my hand. He took me underneath his wing, right? And the byproduct of that is, hey, I become this champion. I become this entrepreneur, this business that learns the skill sets, that learns the obstacles and the struggles and the mindsets of that person guiding me. And guidance, I think, is pretty much everything. Because without guidance, we're by ourselves. Without guidance from this podcast, without guidance from the pastor, without guidance from a fitness coach, without guidance from a business coach, dude, you're doing life on your own, right? You're just taking all the information that's online these days and trying to put the pieces of the puzzles where you see it best fit in your life. Let me tell you something. I've been that guy and I've seen other guys do that. That's going to lead to sick and tired of being sick and tired because you're trying to figure it out on your own. When you get that guidance, when you go under somebody's wing, man, talk about the shortcut of success. That's how I feel about guidance.
Do you remember some of the key elements when you were being guided? Because like you said, you wouldn't take guidance before, but there must have been something that he did that you were like, oh, I'm listening. And do you remember some of the moments where you were like, oh man, that was a good one? Like you still remember today of some of the things that he said? Because it might not be mind blowing if we hear it right now, but to you, and that's going to be true for anybody listening, when they get that, oh, that was a difference maker right there for me in my life and the direction it's going to go. That moment of clarity, perhaps they provide, it then propels you forward, right? It gives you that target to hit. Do you remember some of those things that he gave, just as an example?
Yeah, some examples for me were because I was raised in my childhood. It was a lot of scarcity mindset. Go to school, get a job, work the job for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and then retire, right? And so that was my mindset. That's all I ever knew. Well, and that was even my mindset going through enterprise, rent a car until I got terminated. Well, everything happens for a reason. When I got to him, his mindset was of an entrepreneur and business owner. His mindset was, hey, look, I'm building this business. I'm in the trenches right now, but I'm not going to sit here at my desk for the next 10 hours a day for the next 40 years. So I was like, well, wait a minute. You're telling me that what you've built the last 5, 6, 7 years, you had to do what I'm about to do, which is sleeves up in the trenches, putting in the work, embracing the suck, doing the things, the skill sets, the obstacles, the systems, the processes, learning it myself, but understanding there's a bigger picture here. There's a macro. There's a clearer picture on what I want my life to look like in a certain way, belief system, and getting and who I needed to become. Now, because I saw him as a role model and the way he showed up, swiping his card, buying the things that he wanted to do, taking me to lunch, taking me to go eat sushi, pork chop Fridays at Pork Chop in the Woodlands. I'm sitting here going like, dude, you just spent $80 on me. Like, if I swipe that, I'm going to see that in my bank account. That's going to hurt. That's a big pill to swallow. So I'm like, what is the difference here? Because what I've been taught the last 20 years, 25 years is you go to work, you put your head down and you don't pick your head back up. And you do the same thing and you put it on repeat until you die, until you retire. And so his belief system really shifted me in how he was showing up by guiding me in the things that he was doing, what he was saying. And he would go work out at 3:00 in the afternoon. I was like, well, wait a minute. You mean you're not going to stay till 5:00 today? You're going to be able to leave and go work out? How? Like, I don't get it. Like, I'm used to working 12 hours a day. So the work that you've put in the last 10 years, like, that's the design. That's the life that you've designed yourself. Well, yeah. Beautiful home, beautiful wife, beautiful vehicle, beautiful office, beautiful furniture, beautiful food, all these different things, beautiful friends. The people that he had surrounded myself with, I could never have these friends. I heard their conversations, and their conversations at 25 years of age, I'm like, this is foreign to me. What, like the way this guy's body language is right now and what he's talking about, cash flow, going fishing for 2 weeks. What? Having people work for him. What? I got to do all the work. So his beliefs and his role model and him guiding me in this transition of, hey, no. There's more to life. You must believe it to achieve it. And so I saw him firsthand show up every single day. It's not that he didn't work hard. He was just working hard on the business, not in it. He was working harder on himself so he could pay it forward to me, invest in me, take me on trips, invest in the courses, and do these things over time and help guide me. Now, he could have easily said, hey, come and I'll pay you $25,000 a year. You sell a bunch of policies for me, build my dream. And me and him have a handful of interactions, but that's not how he showed up. He wanted to be a guide. He wanted to be a role model. He wanted to be a mentor for me for 3 years. And he wasn't perfect. He made mistakes, but he owned them. He said it. He had conversations with me. And so over time, I realized like, oh, I like how he presented himself. I like how he showed up here. And then towards my departure at the insurance brokerage, there was things I didn't like. So I at that time, though, he had instilled the beliefs and the mindset by guiding me through this process in the bigger picture to understanding like, oh, so I have to work on myself. I have to invest in myself in these mentors, in these coaches, in these trainings to really understand the outside perspective. And that's all it's come down to is understanding the perspectives, because what you don't know is what you don't know. We have these blind spots, and a guide, a podcast, a coach, mentor is going to be there to go, hey, I'm going to listen to you and I'm going to active listen. We're going to go through this process. You're going to have hiccups. You're going to have obstacles and challenges. And guess what? You're going to be able to ask me. You're going to be able to come knock on my office door. And I'm going to tell you to take a seat right now, Sean. Tell me your problem. I'm going to listen to you. And then I'm going to ask you a question and you're going to answer it yourself. Mind blown.
Yeah.
That is a guide. And all he did was coached me. And then I was like, it was the same thing over for 3 years. I was like, okay, so I just need to continue this process, continue to work on myself outside of that. And then where I fell off the bandwagon, Ewan, was I didn't have the continued accountability, the continued guide. I was like, I'm going to go start my own business, ego and pride. I'm going to show you. I'm going to go design the life I want to live. I did that for 5 years and I was miserable at 33 because I didn't continue that mastermind group. I didn't continue that guidance. I didn't continue that accountability, that support. I didn't have the clarity as a business owner and entrepreneur like he did, right? I thought I could do it all on myself. I thought the ego and the pride was driving me. Sure, it got me the money in the bank. It got me the Shelby Mustang. It got me the house. But within 24 to 48 hours, it left me feeling unfulfilled, stuck, lost, and frustrated.
Man, I think we're going on 15 years of knowing each other, and I've witnessed the whole story, but I don't think you've ever shared it quite to the T like that of what your experience was like at the with your first kind of mentor and guides at the State Farm agency, and you really painted to the detail of, man, you've done exactly that. Like you painted the exact same picture for yourself because you were in it, like you were surrounded by that and got the guidance on how to do it.
Yeah.
And you picked up not just the how to do's, but the way to be. Like, cause you're being that way. The same thing, like even with around the friends and the way he was with employees and his way to be around spending money. You know, cause it's one thing you can tell someone to do, to swipe the card, but if you're not being the person that understands why the return on that is and why you might not spend that money, that's the difference. That's the difference right there. You know, I never thought about asking this before, but your guide, do you know much about his mentor who taught him? Did he ever mention how he learned what he learned?
Yeah, we never dove deep on it, but it was very similar. It was very similar situation. And it was the same process. And, you know, we've mentioned the company name, but State Farm, that's why State Farm is so successful. That's why they're the number one, right? It's because of their process. They basically, find individuals like myself, right? And they come in, they roll up their sleeves, they get all this investment into myself, right? Because I showed up every single day, and that was the thing, is I didn't even know what ego and pride was at that point. I was just a lost soul. I was just wanting to give an opportunity. I was the underdog. I was struggling. I didn't have a job. And so I was just like, give me an opportunity. Tell me to jump off a cliff. I'll jump off a cliff, but just do, and I'll do it. And so over time, everything that he had shared with me is the same process that what we've talked about. Is he went through the same process at another agent's office underneath their wing, and he's just paying it forward. It's just it's the law of reciprocation. If you study all these entrepreneurs and business owners, or that are in that, I can't speak for others, but like that, what we're doing is, Sean, why do you do what you do? Well, I would just be super selfish and alone and unfulfilled and a lack of purpose and against what I'm all about if I didn't pay this forward and help one or thousands of people.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what drives me every single day. Is because like, I'm just speaking to the 25-year-old Sean, just like he was speaking to the 25-year-old, person that showed up at his mentor's office, that went through the same process, the same 3 years, the same program, the same investments, the same trial and errors, the same mistakes, the same failures, and learned from his mentor and just learned what to do and what not to do. Here's the key ingredient. I was going to mention this earlier. There's two things when it comes to guidance that I've learned, is that when you're getting guided, right, there is a big difference between getting guided and going under somebody's wing. And when I think of entrepreneurs and business people and even sales professionals, if you are alone and you're trying to build a business by yourself, or you're in a sales role, or you're an entrepreneur at an organization, and you're all alone and you're trying to gather podcasts, you're trying to gather YouTubes, you're trying to gather online courses, you're doing the work behind the scenes, but you're still seeing a lack of progress. You're not seeing the results. That's the issue number one, is because there's no guide. There's no guide on a daily or weekly basis. The people that have been guided, like myself and coachees that I've coached over the last 2 years, and yourself as well, think about plugging yourself into the mastermind group, coaching group, getting coaching yourself. When you're guided on a weekly basis or a daily basis, that is where you build these habits and these disciplines to become the version of yourself that is going to get to where you want to go. The guidance is one of the key ingredients, or the mentor in where you want to go. Because if without that, what happens is what happened to me. Think about what happened to me when I left State Farm, that departure. I was like, I've got all the skill sets. I've got all the know-hows. I've been grinding for the last 3 years, and I'm ready to hit the ground running. Well, cool. I hit the ground running for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, 36 months, 4 months. I'm like, dude, employees hate me. They're leaving. I'm doing the same thing. I'm 25 pounds overweight. I'm miserable, but I have money in the bank and I have a Shelby Mustang and I have a nice car. Why am I not feeling fulfilled? I hadn't been getting guided over those 3 or 4 years. I thought, I've got it. Release the reins. No. Why do you think Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, all these guys, year after year after year, continue to get guidance, to continue to get coaching, to continue to get a mentor that's going to be sharing these perspectives in these different areas of life? Confirmations. That was the biggest failure of my career, I would say. Not the termination. I'm glad that happened. But the biggest failure that I had ran into was letting my pride and ego drive me and not willing to listen to anybody around me that wanted to be my mentor and coach and guide at the time. That was my biggest failure, Ewan, because I was just too prideful. And so now looking back, I'm like, dude, where can I be open, active, listen, and filter, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a coach, whether it's somebody that's a mentor that's guiding you, where can I be open to getting guidance from that person? Here recently, counseling. I love married life at our church. Before I'd been like, who are you to be up there at the classroom to be teaching about married life and happy marriages? That was the wrong mentality. right? That is something to think about because you don't know what goes on behind the scenes at their home. But my mentality now is, oh, Ewan, all they're trying to do is guide me.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. They, whatever goes on behind their home or not, they're just trying to guide me. Let me drop the ego and pride, because the ego and prideful guy goes, well, who are you to say what you're saying up there in the room? Yeah, everything's fine and dandy right now, what you're saying in front of the class, in front of all these married couples, but what's going on behind the scenes at your house? See, that's the ego and prideful guy. But the guy that drops the ego and the pride goes, tell me more. And I'm going to filter what you're telling me, see how you can guide me in my own marriage and apply it in my own life.
You make a good point, though. It is important to look at who your guide is and do they have what you want? And if they do, then that's a good indication that they'd be able to at least give you some version of what they have also, and so you would do a little bit of research, a little bit of trust but verify type thing. And so that's an important question to ask, but that's the kind of maybe the more external. But what you're talking about is the internal, like how dare you tell me? Honestly, though, kudos to you to share the fact that you had the ego. Everybody has it. There's not a single soul on the planet that doesn't. We just have it in different areas and in different ways. And a lot of people might think they don't. I know I thought I didn't at some point, but man, the more I study myself, I'm like, nope, there it is. There it is right there. And it's very sneaky, and I can find it too with people, right? Like I could talk to them, I could find it real quick. And it's normally, you just have to say a few things in a certain area and you see it flare up. And it's normally a defense. It's always defense.
Yes.
The ego protects the inner child, right? It protects that thing that you're afraid of, or that's going to put you in what you think is danger. And so what you were able to do is admit and find it and see and do something about it. And until anyone is in that position to face that demon, that dragon, stare it down, your ego, that's the only thing you're battling against. Like we think most of our issues are external. Most of our external battles are disguised as what are actually internal battles.
Yes.
And once you get that internal battle, then what comes out, if it's beautiful on the inside, it's going to be beautiful on the outside. And no matter how beautiful it is on the outside, if it's not what it needs to be on the inside, it's all a waste. It's all a waste of time. And having a guide to teach you that, to show you that, to discuss it, at least to have you not tell you what to do, but for you to go, and you said it best right there, they ask you questions so that you figure out the answer, because a guide doesn't tell you what to do. They just show you the path. Yeah. Follow me down this path.
Yep.
But you have to take the steps.
Yeah. You have to take the steps. And here's two things that I've learned from getting guidance on mentorships, right? There's so many benefits to it. And it's the quickest way to success, in my opinion, in whatever area of life that you want. There's two of the fastest way to get guidance. Here it is. You ready for this? One, you either go work for an employer, go work for a business or an entrepreneur. If you're wanting to be a business, if you're wanting to be a business owner or entrepreneur, then what can you do to plug yourself into that business, right? Whether it's insurance, landscaping, real estate, whatever it may be, business is business. So if they've got a track record, how do you go work for that person for free? That's what I would do. That's what I would tell my teen and 20-year-old self. Go work for that person for free. That's when and if we have kids, that's gonna be the number one thing. Hey, don't learn it from me. I'll teach you all the different perspectives, but you're gonna go work for Ewan Heinemeier at Level Up and Live for free for 6 months. And you're gonna do all the dirty work, but you're gonna learn things along the way because you're rolling up your sleeves. So go work for somebody, right? The second way to do this is you pay. You pay for it. You get skin in the game. Because if you don't get skin in the game, statistics show, from my experience and everybody else's experiences out there, is you just won't treat it the same.
That's right.
If you get something free, you won't treat it the same. You got to have skin in the game. So you go pay for it. And I paid for coaching for my fitness because I was sick and tired of being sick and tired of not getting the results that I wanted to get and my performance at these high rocks races and these different competitions. So I hired a coach, 6 months, went all in, made it happen, paid for it, and helped me along the way, gave me some pointers, gave me some tips, gave me some guidance. And I remember running my race at the very end, ran a 69 minutes individually at my high rock. So no pressure, you, and you got to beat that time. And I got to the end of the race. He came up to me and said, "Hey, how'd you do?" I said, "Man, I felt good, left it all on the playing field." I said, "But there's one thing." He goes, "What is it?" I go, "Well, I just feel like I didn't pace it right, man. His 69-minute race, I'm not used to these kind of races. I'm used to 10, 15, 20-minute races. Just wasn't used to that 69-minute. I didn't know how to pace it. He goes, this is what he did, Ewan. He goes, let me see your watch. You're wearing a Garmin? Yep. Boom, boom, boom. Made a couple clicks. You see this right here? When you go out there and you go on that run, and then you go in the rock zone, and then you go in the extra zone, you just click that little thing right there on the run, and it's going to show you your splits. All I want you to do between now and your next race is focus on what your times are so you're aware of that and mindful about it out in these races. I've been using that same strategy ever since then, and he was my guide, that quick little plug, because he was experienced in that area, and it's been a game changer. Now I know my pace. You follow my pace.
If that was all you got from getting that coach, let's say everything else was terrible, and you got that, it was worth the money, man, because that's a golden nugget that changed your outcomes in life.
That's right.
In that area, in that experience. And I know you probably got a lot more than that, but it would have been worth it just for that little nugget. And
100%.
Again, you could go find that online, but you didn't know to look for it. Right. And if you don't know what to look for, how are you ever going to find what you don't know what could work? You can get little tips and everything, but you said it best too. Someone tells me, click the watch from a YouTube video or a book I read. Okay, maybe I take it. But if I just paid someone to tell me that, I'm doing it because I'm paid. It's just the way it goes, man. Just the way it goes. So yeah, I'm really glad you shared that because it's such a small nugget, but that is everything. What you just said right there is true. Maybe that's $1 million little nugget someone gets for their business.
Yep.
And I know, talking about some of the coaches, I mean, there's one guy, he was at 6 figures. I watched it when you were working with him, he was 6, and then he was at $1 million. I'm like, dang, he's at 7 figures already?
Yep.
And now he's up to like 6 million a year. Yep. I'm like, he's just blowing everything out of the water. I'm like, that's all because of the guidance he's received. Yes. And he just excelled. And plus massive action. Yeah. Right. Those two things go hand in hand, but
it has to be a combination. Yeah. He could have gave me the advice. My coach could have gave me the advice and I not applied it. It's a two-way street.
Yeah.
So when you're getting guidance, are you applying, are you taking the time, energy, and effort? Are you putting the work in behind the scenes? And I think that's the separator. So if you're listening to this, you're like, man, I need some guidance in my life. Text us guidance 936-788-4295. Shoot us a DM. Guidance. Be more than happy to guide you, whether it's for a free resource, free download on many of the downloadable templates that we have. And outside of that, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode moving forward. Share this with an entrepreneur or business owner who could use some guidance or this message. Thanks so much for listening. And outside of that, level up and live, baby.
Level up and live.